Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith, UFC 235 preview. The interesting thing about this card when I look at it is a lot of people are excited about it. There's a lot of great fights. A lot of these have the potential to be really, really one-sided. And that's rare for a card that's this anticipated, that so many people are looking forward to. But a lot of these could be really, really one-sided wipeouts. And let's start. Let's go with the top three. Okay, let's start with Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren. There are two Ben Askrens, and I called all his fights in Bellator. There's a Ben Askren that can get a takedown, and then there's the Ben Askren who can't get a takedown. And they are totally different guys, different fighters completely. The only examples really against Jay Haran, he had trouble getting the takedown in all the odd rounds, which is interesting. And when he had to rely on his other skills, he looked lost. He looked like it never occurred to him he'd have to actually use them. Not that he didn't know how to do them, is that he didn't quite know how to use them in a combat scenario. When he fought Sapo Santos in ONE FC, when he initially couldn't get the takedown in their first fight, and it was like, I didn't even know this could happen, that this was even a possibility. He's such a specialist. When he gets a takedown, he looks fantastic. He looks great, good mobility, good submission game, steadily improving ground and pound. Impossible to get up again once Ben Askren takes you down. But when he can't get it and has to rely on his other skills, it's the level is totally different. If he has to be that guy, that I can't get a takedown guy, against Robbie Lawler for more than a minute, he's in deep, deep shit. Because Robbie Lawler hits like you stole something from him. That's always been his thing. Incredibly heavy-handed. And Jay Haran outboxed Ben Askren when he couldn't take him down, but he didn't have a lot of one-shot power. Never known as really a knockout guy. Robbie Lawler has knockout power. And once he puts it on you, it's over. And the advantage Robbie Lawler has is he's fought great wrestlers before. Johnny Hendricks, Josh Koscheck, he's beaten guys that were known for their takedown. You can argue about the level. Ben Askren might be above those guys, but not by a ton. Johnny Hendricks, two-time national champion, three-time finalist. Josh Koscheck, national champion at Edinburgh. So Robbie Lawler's beaten guys on that level. Robbie Lawler has beaten guys like Ben Askren. Ben Askren hasn't ever really beaten guys like Robbie Lawler in terms of, obviously, Douglas Lima, Andrei Korchkov, power hitters, good combinations, technical, blah, 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 blah. None of those guys had ever faced a wrestler before. They hadn't faced that kind of takedown. So they were almost like deer in the headlights. They just hadn't seen that before. Robbie's at least seen it before. Now, can he stay on his feet? We'll see. The thing is, he only needs one. And that's the difference. When you look at a guy like Ben Askren, he needs to consistently work his takedown and top pressure the entire fight. Robbie Lawler needs one good shot and it's over. Can he submit Robbie? He can. Robbie has certainly been hard to submit. The ones who have done it have been really elite. Jacare, Jake Shields, really elite guys. So that's the interesting part of it. Later in his career, he was caught early. But, in the last few years, it's hard to submit Robbie Lawler. So he's got to basically take him down, ground and pound, and keep him there for 15 minutes to win. Robbie just needs to land a couple punches, and it might be over. We'll see. Ben Askren's chin hasn't been tested that much. So it's interesting. But it's kind of it's a one-sided fight. Either Ben Askren's going to Ben Askren him, or Robbie Lawler's going to Robbie Lawler Ben Askren. It's a very, very either-or kind of fight. Kamaru Usman versus Tyron Woodley. On paper, Tyron Woodley does everything Kamaru Usman does, just a little bit better. Kamaru Usman, Division II standout. Tyron Woodley, a Division I standout. Kamaru Usman, much improved boxing. His hands are getting nice, but not a lot of power. One win by knockout over Sergio Moraes, and that's it. Tyron Woodley can starch you. Real power in his hands. Not only is he a nice boxer, more of a power puncher than Kamaru Usman. So I would give him that advantage too. Been in more fights, been in more 5-rounders, more experience, been in there against better names. All of that is on the side of Tyron Woodley. But Tyron Woodley, at 36 years old, is right at that point, 23 professional fights, where the end might come in any fight. Starting to get into his late 30s, been through a lot of wars. The fall doesn't tend to be graceful. It tends to be right off a cliff. So the interesting thing to me is, could that fight happen against Kamaru Usman? We don't know. We have no idea. Kamaru Usman is so solid. Just everything he does. I call this fight against Rafael dos Anjos. He was just solid the entire fight. nice hands at short, medium, and long range. Great takedown offense, great takedown defense, great submission defense, good gas. Everything looked solid. Tyron Woodley has looked spectacular in those areas at different times. So it's going to be, to me, a case of, can Kamaru Usman keep the pressure on long enough to find the cracks that might be showing at 36 in a long, tough career? That's the interesting. Can he stay away from the power of Tyron Woodley long enough for Tyron Woodley to get old in one fight? And combat sports is one of the few sports where you really get old in one fight. It really happens all at once. So we'll see if that happens with Tyron Woodley. If not, I think all the advantages are with Tyron Woodley. If Tyron Woodley isn't himself anymore and has been in it too long, and he's had some injuries recently, Kamaru Usman's going to expose that, and it's going to be a one-sided Kamaru Usman fight. I think it's a competitive fight, but I would give the edge to Tyron Woodley, just because in every area he has a little bit of an advantage. Now, Anthony Smith versus Jon Jones, this could be one-sided for a very different reason. Anthony Smith is all-around solid. Explosive 205er, athletic, good striking, good ground and pound, good takedown defense and offense. There are no glaring holes in his game. Jon Jones is just the best light heavyweight of his era, maybe of all time, probably of all time. So it's the problem when I look at this fight, and I talked to Mark Montoya last week from Factory X, and he said, look, we try and strip away the guy. You're not facing Jon Jones, you're facing a guy with 2 arms and 2 legs. That's it. To kind of get away from the hype, get away from the idea that this is such a huge fight against an all-time great and all this stuff, get away from them, just make it about a physical body. The problem is Jon Jones's physical body presents a lot of problems. So when I look at the Anthony Smith fight, I don't see a magic bullet for Anthony Smith. I don't see that thing where you go, yeah, but if he gets this, he's got a good shot. He's just all around solid. Jon Jones is spectacular. What is interesting to me when I look at the Gustafsson fight, Jon Jones didn't go out there and go, man, I got to look great. Oh, I got to show the critics something. It was a very patient fight. It was patient. He waited for his moments. He picked them apart. It was very scientific about the way he was seeing the fight. Really high fight IQ. That's a hard guy to beat. A Jon Jones that isn't trying to be flashy or prove anything is hard to beat. And I think it's Anthony Smith, unless Jon Jones has really overlooked him, which I don't see happening. I don't see him making that big mistake that lets an explosive young guy into a fight mentally and physically. So that's the interesting thing to me, is that in the last fight he had, Jon Jones looked very, very mature. Very mature. Wasn't trying to do anything crazy. And so Anthony Smith has to find a way to win when he's never been in a fight this big, never been in a championship fight. Easily the biggest fight of his career, just moved up to 205. Everything's stacked against him. This would be, in my opinion, the biggest upset in combat sports history. Not combat sport, boxing maybe, but in MMA, biggest upset in MMA history. I don't think anything's getting past Douglas Tyson, but it would be the biggest upset in MMA history if you were able to pull this off. Simply because Matt Serra, of course, had the power shot, and I think everybody knew, well, he's got heavy hands. If he can land one, maybe take him out. No one's been able to really do much against Jon Jones, especially Anthony Smith, not known necessarily as a one-shot power guy. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can pull the biggest upset in MMA history, because that's exactly what it would be. So once again, 3 fights everyone's looking forward to that have the potential of being one-sided. We'll have to see what side it's on. But it's going to be an interesting night. Also, I'm doing the post-fight show on SiriusXM with Dan Hardy afterwards. If you have SiriusXM, Fight 93, all right, Fight Nation. So check it out and listen to us break them down post-fight, okay? But enjoy. If you like the YouTube, go ahead and subscribe, comment, discuss as much as you like, and I will see you post-fight with Dan Hardy. Later.